Our second scripture lesson for today comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 21 through 37. You have heard it was said to people long ago, "You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment." But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, "Raka," is answerable to the court. And if anyone says, "You fool," you will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there, in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them. Then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard it was said to the people long ago, "Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made." But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot even make one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Please pray with me. Dear God, we read these scriptures of your rules, of your laws, and we let them sink deep into our hearts. Help them to guide us in the way we are to live. Amen. Back long ago in the year 2000, when I was going to McCormick Seminary in Chicago, one of the things I had to learn very quickly was how to find parking in Hyde Park in order to make it to class on time. Now, I was raised on a farm in southwest Michigan. I'm a field and forest kind of a gal, the person who likes plenty of space. And then I lived in both Grand Rapids and Holland. And in towns in Michigan, parking your car is usually pretty straightforward. You're either parking in spaces in parking lots which are always clearly marked, or if you're using on-the-street parallel parking, it is usually pretty well defined with parking meters that typically give you plenty of room to get in and out of the spaces. But in Hyde Park, near McCormick Theological Seminary in the University of Chicago, I learned that parking there was more of an art form. There really wasn't much available for parking lots, and all those spots were rented out by the month anyway. You needed to be able to parallel park on the street. And if your car could fit, you should park there immediately, because that spot would be taken by someone else once you passed it by. Now, if the majority of your car was in an on-street parking zone, but just the back part of your car hung over into a yellow zone, you were probably good. And if you got a spot that encroached on someone's driveway, You just had to make sure that you left enough room for them to be able to squeeze their car past your bumper if you didn't want to get towed. I parked in spots in Chicago that would have definitely have gotten me a ticket in Michigan. But the culture was that there was this friendly competition for parking spots, and people understood that everyone was looking for parking, and the expectation was that nobody planned on getting spaces that were close to their destination. Everybody came early and was prepared to walk for a while to get where they actually needed to go. In the meantime, you would park where you could, and as long as you were not inconveniencing anybody else, you were good. It was a very different culture of the way of interpreting parking rules than I was used to. Now, in our scripture passage today, we need to understand the culture of rule keeping that was the norm among the Jews that Jesus was addressing. The Jewish people lived with the Pharisees, who were the sort of folks that were called rules lawyers. Folks who would argue that technically it wasn't breaking one of the commandments to do what they wanted to, but they were obsessed with staying pure and keeping the letter of the law. They would count other people's footsteps on the Sabbath to ensure that they were not walking too much. The Pharisees would require people to buy a special, very expensive, temple-approved sheep in order to be sure that the sacrificial lamb would be found without blemish. In order to be approved, in order to be pure, they needed to know every rule of the law and then live by it, and make sure that all of you lived by it as well. If the Pharisees had been in charge of enforcing parking in Hyde Park in Chicago, they would have been out there with rulers, ticketing people whose car bumpers were just an inch over the line. There would have been no empathy in their hearts when they saw that you parked an inch over the line because you were trying to leave a little more space for the car in front of you to be able to get out more easily. There would have been no consideration for your intent at all. Now, it is our heartfelt intent that makes these words of Jesus here in Matthew 5 so powerful. Jesus begins with the well-known commandment against murder of thou shalt not kill. He takes that as a starting point. But not only should one not murder, we shouldn't bully either. Our words, calling people names, denigrating their position or their work, belittling others, those things were like hammers chipping away at a person's soul. It was death, a fraction of an inch at a time. In the new kingdom that Jesus was calling disciples to, those relationships matter. We are to work at reconciling ourselves with our enemies, choosing mediation over a bitter lawsuit. The relationships between people are what Jesus is talking about, and saving those relationships, even in a divorce. The second commandment that Jesus addresses here is adultery, especially adultery by men. Jesus calls it out for what it is. At that time, only men had the right to divorce. And Jesus knows that many of the men sitting there listening to him were divorcing their wives and trading them in for a younger model. Jesus knew that in their culture this would cause the woman to lose all her status, would make that divorced woman damaged goods, and that many of those women did not have a big dowry. They would then have to turn to prostitution just to survive. Jesus knew that the system was stacked against those women whose only crime was to grow old with their husbands. And right here, he calls the guys on it. In a direct analogy to the husband and wife being one flesh, Jesus suggests that the men would be better off popping out their eye or cutting off their own hand rather than allowing their marriage relationship to be destroyed by their lust for a pretty young thing, or to raise their hand to their wives in contempt or violence. Now, the admonition here against taking oaths also has a cultural basis. Swearing by something was a popular practice at the time, and it was done completely in order to impress or persuade the listener. You could just imagine a person trying to talk someone else into something. I swear by heaven and earth, I will not break this promise to you. But this oath was often taken in bad faith. It was frequently a hypocritical lie that was designed to pull the wool over someone else's eyes. Jesus here suggests that a simple yes or no will suffice for most promises. There is no need to convince someone of your intentions if they already know you and trust you. In conclusion, the new kingdom that Jesus was establishing is that our relationship with God and with others is what really matters. It isn't that we say the right pious words, or that we sing the best and most popular Christian songs, or we follow every part of the church rules, or we memorize the most Bible verses, or even have the most Sunday school attendance. The proof of our discipleship for Christ is about how we love God and how we love others while loving ourselves. No one should ever be surprised to find out that we are a follower of Jesus, because it should be obvious to anyone watching us and that how we treat the people that we meet. Because in the end, it doesn't matter if you had enough money to build a new building or that your name is on a plaque on a wall somewhere. What really matters is that you cared enough to speak up for others who have no voice, that you were kind and welcoming to strangers, and that you were a friend to those who were down on their luck. Our commitment to follow Jesus should be demonstrated through our willingness to follow him and live out our faith in every single one of our relationships. So be it. Amen.